Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff. He is on the Select Committee investigating January 6th and is also a chair of the Intelligence Committee. Congressman, good to have you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Most likely, this defeat for the former president goes next to the Supreme Court with a 6-3 conservative majority and three Trump-appointed judges. Are you concerned about what the court might do?
Well, I think you always have to be concerned about this particular court. The issue is really whether they're a conservative court or a partisan court. If they're a conservative court, this should be very easy. Indeed, I think if they're a conservative court, they don't even need to take this case from the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals made a very powerful argument, which I think is the right one, that both branches of government, the executive branch and the legislative branch, agree these records should be turned over. And why on earth should the court step into the middle of that and decide against both branches? So I think there's a compelling reason for the court to say, we don't need to see this case and allow the Court of Appeals decision to stand.
A source is telling CNN, Congressman, that Meadows has provided the committee with texts and emails he was exchanging with a wide range of people during January 6th, during the attack, and they relate to what Trump was doing. Can you tell us anything about them, and have they given you new leads to follow here?
There are only a couple that the committee has disclosed in a letter from the chair and ranking member. But they certainly do reveal that Mark Meadows has provided the committee with very relevant emails and text messages that go to January 6th, that go to, whether the military would be needed, that go to the plans of legislators to try to overturn the election and just how controversial that would be, and the fact that the chief of staff loved that idea. So he's very much in the thick of things. And they so dramatically undercut his argument that he can't testify because it would be somehow privileged when he provided all this materials to us, which he acknowledged are not privileged.
Your colleague on the committee, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, saying the investigation is firing on all cylinders. That's a quote, and that the panel met with nearly 300 witnesses, including 4 today. How confident are you in all the information that you have right now?
Well, I'm very impressed, frankly, with how fast we're moving, how many people are cooperating, the nature of the information that we're getting. As the vice chair pointed out, we did 4 depositions today, so that's pretty remarkable. And these were important depositions. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. As you can see from the information that is coming out, there is a lot the public doesn't know yet about the president's role in all of this, people around him, what level of coordinated strategy there was, and all of these other efforts to overturn the election, culminating in that attack on the Capitol. We want to expose that to the light of the day and legislate in a way that protects the country going forward.
Let's put up some of the key people who you have spoken with. Many should have a lot of pertinent information to paint a full picture of what happened in the days leading up to and on January 6th. For the cooperating witnesses, what kind of details do you have here? I thought we had a full screen of the people you spoke to, but there it is. Okay, there it is right there. So the cooperating witnesses, what are they sharing?
Well, while I can't go into the particulars of their testimony, it's a range of things. We have had hundreds of people cooperate with our investigation. Some of the most prominent are in the news because they're refusing, like Mark Meadows or Steve Bannon, or showed up and didn't answer questions like Jeffrey Clark, or are suggesting they're going to assert the Fifth Amendment. Some who may come in, they may give us good, useful information, or they may try to dissemble. And even then, we can learn useful information, sometimes without the witnesses even being aware of what they're revealing. So we're learning an awful lot. We're putting the pieces together. We're gathering documentary evidence. We've already acknowledged that we have pursued certain phone records as a way, frankly, of being able to determine who's in touch with whom and when, and test whether we're getting truthful testimony or not, but also to lead us to new witnesses.
Okay, so let me ask you a little bit more there, because you mentioned both of these people, and it appears that there's 2 types of people you're talking to: the public stonewallers like Steve Bannon that you just said, the private testifiers like Mark Short you just mentioned. The stonewallers want to run out the clock, it seems like. Do you think that you'll get enough from the testifiers to show what really happened?
I do, because, frankly, we're getting a lot of cooperation, and there are multiple sources sometimes for the same important facts. Not always, but sometimes. Indeed, one of the reasons the Court of Appeals ruled the way it did in the records case is that for some of those records, there may not be any other source, and that may be true of a great many of them. But we are approaching the investigation from many different perspectives. I do think we are putting the pieces together. Is it possible because some people like Steve Bannon would rather go to jail, rather thumb their nose at the law than help the country prepare to defend itself against any future political violence? Yes, there may be some missing pieces that they take to the jail with them, but I'm confident we're going to get the answers we need to protect the public.
We didn't talk about John Eastman. John Eastman, did he answer any questions, or did he just take the fifth over and over?
I can't comment on that. I think he made clear before his appearance that he intended to assert the fifth, but as to how or on what basis or how often, we're not commenting on that.
So the House tonight passing your bill is called the Protecting Our Democracy Act, and it's meant to combat presidential abuses of power. But its future in the Senate is really unclear, Congressman. Are you worried that we could face another January 6th if this doesn't become law?
I am worried that our democracy is at deep risk. And if this legislation doesn't become law, if H.R. 1 and the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill, those two foundational bills, don't become law because we rely on this archaic Senate rule of filibuster, that our democracy is in grave jeopardy. Those first bills on voting rights, those are foundational. If we don't have that, if people are disenfranchised, if the GOP losing another presidential election succeeds in overturning the election, that's pretty much lights out for our democracy. But even in the future, if we don't pass the legislation we took up today, which is our own set of post-Watergate-like reforms that strengthen the independence of the Justice Department, protect inspector generals and whistleblowers, expedite congressional subpoenas, stiffer penalties for violating the Hatch Act, a way to enforce the Emoluments Clause. If we don't do those kind of things, then we may very well have another president who abuses their power and further tears down the walls of our democracy.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Don.